Glad to have you join me on Housing Development, a program that answers your question on real estate, housing construction, mortgage finance, and a whole lot more. Here we'll bring you up to speed on the happenings in the housing sector, both on the local and international scene. As always, I am Flora Ani, your housing diva. After the news, we shall be discussing housing-related issues. Stay with me.
Ogunniran Financial Services Group has taken over a controlling equity stake of 60% in the infrastructure bank TIB. The group, in a statement on Tuesday, said the takeover followed a concluded acquisition arrangement that began in 2019. The statement said that the chairman of Ogunniran Group, Alhaji Ibrahim Aliyu, stated that the group would leverage the acquisition to bring about new opportunities and growth. Aliyu said the growth would be beneficial to the group, the infrastructure space, and the general public, adding that the Central Bank of Nigeria had approved the acquisition of the 60% controlling stake in the bank on March 10. The chairman of Ogunniran Group said that the transaction followed established protocols and necessary regulatory procedures, noting that the admission of private capital in TIB PLC equity, as permitted in its act, had created the first public-private partnership spectacle of reform and innovation in the infrastructure finance space. Operators in Nigeria's housing agencies and institutions have faulted the plan by Bola Tinubu, the president-elect, to merge federal agencies and form a new entity. Tinubu, in his manifesto as the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress (APC), had promised to merge all federal government agencies responsible for home ownership into a new big entity in a bid to address the housing deficit if elected. According to him, the new entity would inherit the functions of existing housing authorities and shall be adequately capitalized by the federal government. Besides funding, which the operators foresee as a major challenge, they also do not see any need for merging existing agencies or institutions, which, according to them, are not even enough given the country's population and the housing needs of the people. Following the frequent building collapses in Nigeria, Nigerian Institution of Surveyors (NIS) has suggested a yearly monitoring of all-story buildings by qualified surveyors. Proffering the solution in Abuja this week, President of NIS, Dr. David Oluwa-Mortemi, said that apart from surveying the land before a structure is erected, there must be a yearly monitoring of story buildings by surveyors. This is to know when the soil is weak and when the building is depreciating. On how to curb quackery, he admitted that every state has a disciplinary committee that sanctions members who violate the building law, but at the national level of NIS, the institution is handling two cases. Concerning the Global Surveyors Day, which is celebrated every 21st of March, Oluwa-Mortemi recalled that the event was not only celebrated across the 36 states of the Federation, but across the world, and it is done to sensitize the public on the functions of surveyors. A leading housing advocacy group under the aegis of Housing Development Advocacy Network (HDAN) has urged the Rivers State government to refrain from its plan to demolish the transmission station of Dar Communications PLC in the state. The executive director of HDAN made the appeal in a statement released in Abuja following the ultimatum. HDAN urged the state government to consider the impact the demolition will have on the employees who depend on their job to survive and negotiate with the media organization for a peaceful resolution of the dispute. The quick notice, signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works, Mrs. Ebere Dinis Emenike, requested the media house to remove its structure for a proposed housing project within 48 hours. HDAN urged the state government to consider negotiating with the media organization for a peaceful resolution and to save the jobs of the staff who work there.
To read the full details of the news, do well to visit www.africanhousingnews.com, and also don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa, and click on the subscribe button. Every year, people keep looking for houses or land to buy. For many prospective homeowners in Nigeria, their dreams of having a decent roof over their heads through some real estate developers fade away into misery and pain. A lot of Nigerians have fallen victims to these fraudulent developers as they barely ever recover their monies. On Voices on the Street today, Nigerians speak on ways to end unethical practices in the housing sector. Have a look.
It's quite unfortunate because if we look at the whole thing happening concerning housing estate and also so on, it's a collaboration between the government and the people. Because more of it's just a syndicate business, in the sense that the government called the outsiders and give them the information within their system. People will now go and forge papers. The way to address this problem, one, coming to the streets in form of giving people allocation. You understand? And any staff find one thing should be dealt with. No compromise. Because the big guys normally collect some from their body, say to the field to go and do some work. All this is open room for corruption.
They have to be held, responsible for their action because it's a deceit, it's fraudulent. You know that something is not real and you go ahead to do it in order to implicate others. It is criminal. So they have to be held responsible for their action.
Now, talking about the real estate developers, I believe they did not just come there to develop. This is Federal Capital Territory we're talking about. We have development control. From the very first day they mobilized to that site, I think the development control needs to come to that site to confirm if those persons has the right documents, to if they are also doing the right thing that they are supposed to do on that site. So if any house has been built from the foundation level down to the roofing level, I believe those persons have the right allocation from the federal government. So if any agency should come now to tell me that, okay, this house, I did not have the right documents or no right allocation to that particular land, I think the person should tell me how come, how is it coming out with this finding now?
The management of the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority, FCDA, this is a high time for them to rise up to this occasion, to put all necessary measures on ground to stop all these fraudulent persons from penetrating even inside the FCDA to secure such fraudulent documents.
They are not supposed to. They are the first culprits. Okay. They are the people that they're supposed to hold. How come you get this land? How come this land was approved to you? Who give you the authority to build? When did you clear it there? But you go there, you see innocent people who cannot fight them because they have muscle. They have political gas, they have security at their back. You see them moving out with convoys of police, chains of police everywhere. Innocent poor man cannot fight them there because they have authority that is backing them up. If authority is not backing them up, they are not supposed to be moving inside innocent people's land and claiming it that it's an estate, their own estate there. Why the people you rely on that are supposed to they are supposed to be the one that will take justice to, that will give you justice? The authority government established, FCT administration, under urban and regional plan, under development control, under aegis, you rely on them. They will fail you. You busy going there, coming back. Why the developer are busy developing and you cannot enter there? Somewhere you go there, you see chance of police.
Voices on the Street there. Purchasing a house or land for sale is a significant decision that must be carefully considered because there are numerous variables at play. One of the riskiest kinds of investment in Nigeria is in real estate, particularly given the country's poor regulatory environment. Right after the break, I'll be joined by Town Planner Lami Ayuba. She is the chairperson, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, FCT chapter. Stay with me.
Looking for the most innovative housing construction festival? The best platform for an exhibition, an opportunity to network and increase your business reach. How to navigate the real estate and construction market trends? Then look no further, as the 17th Africa International Housing Show is here again. This year's ARHS gives you access to several innovations, including 400 plus exhibitors, 25,000 plus attendees, Africa's one-of-a-kind real estate CEOs Forum, ARHS Under 40 and Young Professional Meetup 2023, B2B Meeting, Networking App, International Conference on Alternative Funding for Housing. This year's event will witness a delegation of members of the Chartered Institute of Housing, TIOH, London, and the UK Professional Association of Certified Housing Practitioners. Be part of this historic event. Visit www.ihsabuja.com or call 0916 500,000. 17th Africa International Housing Show, the largest housing conference and exhibition in Africa.
Welcome back. The program is Housing Development. I'm being joined by Town Planner Lami Ayuba. She is the chairman, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, FCT chapter. Good to have you here, madam.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, they say buying a land or a house is the greatest achievement anyone can invest in, especially at this time in Nigeria. And you know, some people, they save. At the end of the day, they use the savings to get a house or a land where they can retire to at the end of their service year. But in the process of getting this land or a house, they get swindled by some fraudulent estate developers. How can such situations be prevented?
If you want to buy land, you can either buy land from an estate developer or from an allotee that has been previously allocated, or you apply to the land registry, fill a form, open a file, and if they are giving allocations, you get a primary allocation letter. Now, but the current trend and the issue at stake now mostly is with those who buy land from estate developers. First of all, before an estate developer will develop an estate, he will have gotten an allocated land that is genuine from the allocating authority, the land registry or other government institutions saddled with the responsibility of allocating land. Now, once he gets that land, it will be designated estate development or mass housing or others. Then, having gotten that land, that title document, he will either probably buy from primary allottees, of which he becomes a secondary allottee. Then he gets that land, and then he now goes to do his building plans, designs, and everything. And then he will need to get a layout approval from the Department of Urban Regional Planning, that is in Abuja. Then he gets his building plan approval from the Department of Development Control based on the density specified for the zone in which his land is located. After this, he has designed his layout. That means he bought out all the plots and all the necessary community services and infrastructure. Then he can now start selling land to the public. Now, if you are a normal individual and you want to buy that land, before you buy the land, before you even start, don't just go and pay on paper. First of all, request for those documents, the land title, the survey plan that shows the perimeter of the plot, and then the data, and then the size of the plot, and then the layout. Then you ask for the layout, you ask for the approved building plan. When you ask for those two and you see them, then you get copies of them. Then get an independent professional, either a surveyor or a town planner. Then they go and do their search and ensure that these documents are genuine. if they confirm to you that they are genuine before you now start putting money. But what happens now is that you see some fine, well-dressed young boys and young girls, marketers, they just carry some flyers. Those flyers has pictures of beautiful houses in different locations with numbers and everything. And then they tell you that if you buy this land, you'll be this, they make all kinds of promises. Then you just buy the paper. Some of them don't even go and see the estate. So after you make up your mind you want to buy the land, you have to even go and see physically on ground whether this place exists and what is actually, and look at the paper, because sometimes the location will carry Guzape, but what is on paper is Bagudu. So it's for you to check and make sure that all these things are in line before you put your money down. But most people that have been affected here are those who just buy the paper, buy from they don't even know the developer, they just buy from those marketers, then they start paying before they come and start developing, and then after some time, look at this, sometimes 8 years, 10 years, they tell you the land is illegal, so they have to do this.
All right, we just watched some peaceful protests by some subscribers just a few days back, or yesterday rather. Their houses have been marked for demolition. Some of them are even living in such houses, already built, they've been living in it for years. But don't you think such things would have been avoided if the regulatory agencies have done their job while they were building such houses?
Well, a lot of things are at play here. I've been to that area like 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw marking by the regulatory agencies. The houses are marked, and I asked one of the developers, your house is marked, do you know the meaning of the mark? I said, don't mind those people. They don't do anything, they are not serious. That means somebody is probably assuring them that nothing is going to be done. But there is a process that has to that will take place before demolition takes place. Your house will be marked, and the information of why that house is marked will be communicated to you on that document they are giving you for marking your property. They continue development. The developers must make sure that developments are coming up every day. The more houses that are built in that estate, the more market they will get. I know once they start selling, the price keeps increasing. So, but if people don't develop, they cannot sell the place because people will be questioning, nobody has started building. So that means that's why they don't care. They don't take they don't obey the stop work order. Well, might be also that there are some people among the officials who mark that probably don't do their job well.
All right, so thank you so very much, Tamplan and Lami Ayuba, for your thoughts on this question. The program is housing development. Talking of merger, do you think the government should merge the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company PLC, and Family Homes Funds? Let's take a listen to these stakeholders.
The idea of merging them is an emotional response to a strategic problem. And I don't like emotional responses to issues. First and foremost is that government doesn't, you can't merge my company with your company. It's not done. The ownership of Federal Mortgage Bank belongs to the Nigerian workers. It's not owned by federal government. Even though they call it the name Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, government does not have any one single naira in it. So how do you merge it with a government entity? So are you nationalizing the assets of the people? We don't ask ourselves questions, but we sit down and make listen. there was something that we asked that we should look at. Over the years, we've been clamoring for the establishment of a National Housing Council, a council that will sit down and regulate what occurs in the ministries, what occurs, who does what, when, and how. When the housing ministry was being created by President Obasanjo, it was meant to be solely responsible for the issues of housing. And it has a whole lot to do. But the component units were not clearly defined. And that is why each person decided as a minister to try to do what he can do. While the Minister of Finance, because of they are trying to come in from the financial aspect, the Minister of Housing is trying to come in from the demand aspect. Everyone trying to maintain their turf. So I believe that the approach will be to have a regulator in place. And part of the role of such a regulator, National Housing Council, that will include people who are operators from the Federal Ministry of Housing, operators from Federal Ministry of Finance, operators from other professional bodies that operate in the housing sector, those who operate in the supply side, those who operate in the mortgage demand side, and Central Bank of Nigeria. Such a body will be able to call people to order to do what they are supposed to do. If we don't do that, we're going to have a challenge. We should have a National Housing Council. We've called for this in the past. We have National Council meeting on lands, and those who provide housing are not invited. And when we accosted the Minister for Works and Housing, we are told that it's only for those who are within their ambit. But those who are within their ambit does not make all the decisions. You cannot shave a man's hair in absentia. And therefore, it becomes very pertinent that you must have to move in and ask yourself, what do we need to do so that we can create an acceptable pathway? We can reduce transition time between one organization to the other, not merging people's nationalizing Federal Mortgage Bank contribution of Nigerian workers and then putting it into another organization. That is not the way.
My name is Hakeem Ogunniran, founder CEO Eximia Realty Limited. Keep watching Housing on TV.
And that is it on today's episode of Housing Development. Thanks for your time. To catch up on all you've missed or to watch previous episodes of the program, subscribe to the YouTube channel Housing TV Africa. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handles. I remain Flora Ani.